from his studios in New York. It's time for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Here's your host, Dan Tortora.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt for the internet streaming live radio. For internet streaming live video, you're right here with us on facebook.com/livenowdt. And this is a Syracuse Power Hour, I'd like to call it here, as Duke Pettijohn, former Syracuse player, will be joining us here in just a second. And then you'll hear my one-on-one conversations heading out of Week 4 into Week 5 with Sean Riley, Mo Neal, and Aaron Service. I want to thank each and every single one of them and all the players at Syracuse for the time that they give me, from guys that are being recruited by Syracuse to verbal commits to signees to when they come on campus and they play here at Syracuse and to after the fact. It's an amazing thing to be able to have a history with these players like the Mo Neals and the Aaron Services and the Sean Rileys, to follow them through their recruitment, to speak with them en route into Syracuse during their time at Syracuse, and then hopefully, and God willing, after, as I love to keep in touch with them. And an example of that is Duke Pettijohn being here this morning. So, with that being said, without further ado, let's bring him onto the show. Our first Syracuse player conversation comes from an alum of the program, Duke Pettijohn, here with us from Texas this morning. Duke, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Duke, for you, first and foremost, just, what you can say about every season. I mean, obviously, as an alum, you're not out there playing. I know that you probably want to be. I know that you probably have those moments where you want to jump back onto the field. What is it like for you to see the orange and blue and to maybe see a play that you would have done this way or that way, but you're not on the field? Does it ever get tough to kind of watch a game and know that you can't jump out there?
Yeah, it's that's exactly how I felt. Like when I watch a game, it's like I'm watching my kids, my sons play. I'm the same way, and just knowing what I've done in similar situations, and knowing the capabilities of the guys playing that position. It kind of it drives me crazy sometimes, and it's extremely gratifying to see when they are successful. So it's a roller coaster. Like I said, it's like watching the kids.
Yeah, so when you go out there and and you watch these games and you see Syracuse competing now, what can you say about this year's team and just what you've seen, from this year's team? They're 2-2. They got back to 500. They stand where they stand right now. Just what your thoughts are about, where the team is currently at. They had a couple games on the road, couple games at home. What's your thoughts on Syracuse right now?
Like you said, I see that it kind of leveled out. We hit some rough patches, and had some unexpected losses where the expectations are coming off of last year are understandably higher. And I mean that's just the way the world is. When you're successful, the fan base, alumni, they want more, and it was kind of deflating, to lose to Maryland the way we did, and not compete, as well as we could have, against Clemson. So but it seems like we're gaining our footing, and we're getting some confidence back, and working some of those kinks out to hopefully continue this win streak and reach that potential that that we know is there.
And when you look at that, when you look at the potential that's there and whatnot, what is the ceiling, in your opinion, for this Syracuse team here in 2019? Speaking with alum of the program, Duke Pettijohn, what would you say is the ceiling for Syracuse this year?
I'm sorry, you said the ceiling or feeling?
The ceiling of it, how high can this team go in your opinion?
I think the jury's still out, because we're still trying to get acclimated to the new quarterback and him being a full-time starter. So I think it really is going to go how he goes. With the consistency back there and from our offensive line. But we're still optimistic that we'll hopefully go to another level by the end of the season and become that that program that we were back in the day, and it seems to that we're trending towards. So I think it's like I said, it's we're still optimistic about that we're going to have a great season and really turn that corner.
Speaking here with Duke Pettijohn, Syracuse football alum. And Duke, you spoke about your time a little bit there. You just spoke about when you were at Syracuse. And to share with everybody that's listening that doesn't know, just, what your time frame was at Syracuse, the times that, the years that you played there, and kind of what your takeaways were from that experience.
I was Syracuse 96 to 2000. Started from three-year starter, and my time there was awesome, man. It was our defense. It was we had a different mindset. I mean, we were like a really cohesive unit. That held each other accountable. Wanted each and every one of us to be successful, and we all fed off that, and from that, that kind of translated to the fans, and then that drove us to want to be successful. Hearing them cheer and have the dome rocking like it did, it just made you want to make plays, and it almost came to a point where we were so focused that it didn't matter what the offense did. The offense did. Good or bad, we wanted to score points, but we were so confident in our ability to stop teams and just get after it that it really didn't matter what they did, and that's kind of was like our identity, and that we were just almost a totally different like a separate team almost, because we were so siloed and focused on defense.
And when you say that, when you had this defensive strength when you played for Syracuse from 96 to 2000, and, you like you said, you wanted the offense to score and do what they had to do, but you had so much faith in their defense, in your defense, and in what you guys were doing on that side of the ball. Just what you could say about some of the teammates that you had at Syracuse defensively and why it was such a strong defensive unit.
Oh, man, I think, we had one of the best defensive lines in my mind personally. I think in Syracuse history, but across the board, Dwight Freeney and I at end, and not Donald Jenkins, but Donald Jenkins at one point, but then it was myself, Ricky Simpkins, Eric Down, and Dwight Freeney on the D line, and then we had Will Allen back there. We had Quentin Harris, Marlon Greenwood, who was kind of the real linebacker, J.R. Johnson. We just had a bunch of just unbelievable athletes, man, that could just go, man. And it was fun time, man. We were just a dominant defense. We just loved, Michael Vick come in, we want to shut him down, and take it to BC on the road and give it to them, and we just took pride in that, man, and being a top 10 defense now in the country.
Yeah, and having that defense that you had, obviously, Dwight Freeney is somebody that comes up in a lot of people's minds in Syracuse history. And like you said, you at one DN, him at the other. What did you guys take away from each other? What did you learn from each other? Speaking here with Duke Pettijohn this morning of Syracuse football history, played from 96 to 2000 at Syracuse. What can you say you took away from Dwight Freeney, being there with him on that defensive line as the two bookends of the line?
We were good friend of mine, and we just pushed each other, and we competed. Like the first, we both wanted to be the first to get to a quarterback. So that was, we helped each other. We're constantly communicating. If we're flipping sides, and he I kind of set the tone early. So a lot of times I would get, I would just tight end and get the double team. Like whoever had one-on-one, we made sure that we won. And, I took some the spin move. I was trying to show the speed. We both, speed rushers. But, he brought in that the spinning element. So, I got acclimated to doing that, so I integrated that to my game. And actually, I enjoyed playing the run. The run not so much all the time. So, I pushed him to, try to, work that into his game, and and vice versa. It was just fun, knowing I had another guy. I mean, coming off the other side, so I didn't have to take all the attention all the time, and vice versa.
Yeah, and having the success that you guys had. I mean, we look back in the history and we talk about a lot of things, and I want to give a shout out to Shelly Moneal, Moneal's father, as well as Gene Waldron, saying that it was awesome having Duke Pettijohn on here this morning. So a lot of positives coming from the Syracuse alumni toward Duke, and want to show that love. And, Duke, for you, when we look back to 1996 to 2000, I mean, we look at Syracuse history, and it's like the last time Syracuse was ranked in the top 25 in the preseason was back in 1998. You were there. The last time that Syracuse had been in the top 25 in the AP and the coaches poll consecutively was right after you left in 2001. So, back in your era and back at your time at Syracuse was where this team is now reaching back to, saying, well, the last time this happened was, a lot of that was when you were there or around the time you were there. Just what that means to you that, this team in the last couple seasons is starting to reach back and connect to the time period when you were at Syracuse.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what, has us all, excited and, we're really, really engaged, knowing that, we're getting back to those times. We were almost, forgotten there for a while that, when we were there, we kind of got past, just being known as a basketball school. We kind of even put our football program on the map, as far as, being recognized as a, quality, destination for, good football. And to see that, coming back is, encouraging and exciting, because, now we can share that with, with our kids, and, let them know that, hey, this is what we're going, on our way back to being one of those powerhouses in the ACC.
Yeah, and to find that place in the ACC, when Syracuse moved to the ACC, speaking here with Syracuse defensive end alum Duke Pettijohn, when Syracuse moved to the ACC, for you, was that nerve-wracking? Was it concerning that Syracuse, was moving to this, big-time conference for football and whatnot? Did you feel like it was going to take some time for them to find their footing, or how did you look at it?
No, I really, quite honest, I didn't like it at all. Because I know the history of the Big East, and knowing that it was built on basketball, and I thought we had our own identity as a conference, and I felt like it was kind of just thrown away, all that Big East history and those rivalries. So I wasn't excited at all, and I wasn't concerned about being able to compete football-wise or basketball either, for that matter.
Yeah.
I just I didn't like it. I'm still trying to. I still hold on to my, the Big East.
And, for you, like you said, I mean, you were part of the Big East. I grew up, I was a Big East kid for all the sports for Syracuse. That's all that I knew was the Big East, and it was the UConns, and obviously on your side of it, football was a little bit different because they didn't all compete in it or they weren't at the same level. But I grew up thinking about UConn and Georgetown and Villanova and St. John's. I mean, that's just how life was, or West Virginia and Pittsburgh. So for you to see that change over time, how much does it affect you as an alum to see a few years back, in 2012, 2013, realignment, and what realignment did to college football? And ultimately, it didn't change the Big East. It killed Big East football. There is no more Big East football now.
Yeah. And, I agree. I agree on that. It did just change the whole landscape. Now, I don't know if they're like catered to a particular, conferences, it's about money and all. But, you can't, there's no price tag on tradition.
Right.
They wouldn't do that to, I kind of, compared it to, them breaking up the SEC, football teams and, adding them to the, Pac-10. I mean, you wouldn't do that, and that's the equivalent to, the Big East, basketball and, the football lobbies that were developing. And, and they're, either entrenched or, in their entities, but they were, coming along, and there was, pride in that. So, I don't think it changed the landscape for the good, but, it is what it is. We still got to play the games and, and compete, so you get no sense of pride and spill milk.
And I want to stick with this for a second, though, because it's something that you said. Duke Pettijohn, Syracuse Orange football alum here this morning, was a player inside of the Big East. And you just said on the dissolving of the Big East, there's no price tag on tradition. Just to go a little bit farther on that, because I agree with you, that, a lot of moves that are made in the world we live in, unfortunately, are money, 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 and there's never enough money. But you said there's no price tag on tradition, just to go a little bit deeper into that, because I think that that's a very compelling statement that you just made.
Yeah, like I said, it's not, you can't get that back, man. Like, what really, brought it home to me was, watching that 30 for 30 on the Big East and how it was, how it was like built from nothing. You see all that work, that those coaches put in, the original, coaches, the Bay Highs and, the John Thompsons and the Road Messininos, that they put in to, build that brand, the Big East brand.
Yeah.
And to just, throw it away. I mean, it was amazing. Just like, how do you do that? And, but how do you also, hold on to that? Like, if you're going to do that, like, what are you going to, put in place so that's not forgotten? I mean, I don't even, it's not the same, because this is not the same.
Right.
And, yeah, but that was that's still kind of touching me, man.
And it's
how that all went down.
And that's the thing, is it happened so quickly. And, my way to connect to the old Big East is, my coverage of the American Athletic Conference, has something to do with that, because the American, Mike Oresco was the former commissioner of the old Big East, and he stayed with the three teams that were there, which were UConn, for all sports, UConn, South Florida, and Cincinnati. And he decided, he could have just given up. He could have said, we got three schools, let's pack it in, let's say goodbye, it's been a great run, whatever. But he didn't. He took those three schools and he added 9 other schools to it. He was able to get to 12 in basketball and then add, the other sports and whatnot, was able to get to 12 in football, brought in Navy, who had been an independent forever, brought in, obviously Wichita State recently for basketball that doesn't compete in football. So, to be able to do all of that, and he's going through it now with UConn now going to the Big East, and now UConn's football is going to be independent because they wanted to be in the Big East, and so they're back there for basketball and whatnot. So now football's left figuring out, what they're going to do as an independent school. But, this happened with UMass in the A-10 and whatnot. So, I want to give credit to Mike Oresco and the American Athletic, because I know it's not called the Big East, but he kept it alive. He took that little tiny flame that was still burning with Syracuse leaving, Louisville leaving, Pittsburgh leaving, Notre Dame and other sports, leaving and whatnot, and was able to keep this thing going. So just to give some credit and maybe speak to that on Mike Oresco and the American Athletic, that it's not called Big East football, but there's remnants of what was. And like I said, Mike took this little tiny flame and made sure that it's a conference, and not just any conference. This conference can compete.
Yeah, and that's admirable of him. Just kind of like so they were saying, just I want to hold on to that. That's was a great tradition, in the Big East, and like you say, going to keep that flame, burning. So, the kids can, who are historians and sports can, reach back and kind of see what the Big East was, and have an understanding of it. And that's awesome that he's was able to maintain that.
Absolutely.
He also was there to just reform it, man, and just bring the Big East back. Just start a petition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, that's what fans know it as. I mean, fans know the Big East as UConn, Georgetown, Villanova, St. John's, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, Syracuse. There was a time when the Big East was forming that, Notre Dame could have come in there for football. I mean, that could have been a possibility. And not only that, but Penn State was allegedly trying to hop in there. And I mean, picture football right now, Duke. If it was Big East football and Penn State and Syracuse and Notre Dame were in there, I don't think it would have ever collapsed if those schools were there.
No, I mean, if Miami would have stayed, BC would have stayed, if they would, just stayed and not, left as earlier as they did, I mean, I think that would have helped as well.
Yeah.
And, that would bring, more of a reason for, Penn State and Notre Dame to join. And, that would have been crazy.
I mean, can you imagine a conference?
That was even explored.
Yeah. I mean, can you understand? Just wrap your head around a conference that would have Penn State, Syracuse, Notre Dame, Miami, Boston College, Pittsburgh. I mean, to me, it would have been insane. It would have been insane for all the right reasons. I mean, just to see, you look at Syracuse's tradition to Notre Dame's tradition to Penn State's tradition to what Miami used to be, and then, you add in Pittsburgh, who's been up and down and around the corner, but a great rivalry with Syracuse. To me, it would have blew the doors off of college football, in my opinion.
I agree. I totally agree.
You got me all hyped for it now, Duke. I'm like, what do we have to do to make it happen?
I know. You need the East Network. That's the way you. This is the way you can get a new conference. You got your own network, and you got that network like TV money.
Yeah, absolutely. So that coming from. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's weird not seeing the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden. I'm like, come on. Did they do a game at I can't even remember. Are there any ACC tournament games played in Madison Square Garden?
No, the closest the ACC has come to playing their tournament in that area is they played 2 years, and I was on site on location for both of them in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center on Atlantic Avenue.
Wow, yeah, and I can't even get into the whole. I remember when I went back up there, and I was down on Marshall Street in one of the stores, and I see the shirts. And I'm just like, you can't separate me to that rivalry. That's not the same.
Yeah.
And, Syracuse and Georgetown. It's just not the same. I feel like it is really manufacturing this rivalry, and it's really not the same.
Well, and that's the thing is I say this to people all the time, just to get people thinking about it, because I don't know if they necessarily do. I go, who's Syracuse's biggest rival in men's basketball in the ACC? Oh, well, Dan, clearly it's Duke. Okay. Who's Duke's biggest rival in the ACC? North Carolina. Okay, so Syracuse's biggest rival is not Duke's biggest. You know what I mean? It's like Syracuse's biggest rival is Duke. Duke's biggest rival is, it's only one way. So Syracuse doesn't have a true rival, and it's Pittsburgh. It's not Pittsburgh.
No.
It was Georgetown.
Yeah, it was, absolutely.
It was always Georgetown.
I mean, and then it was Syracuse, Utah. I mean, it was that went both ways. But
yeah.
I mean, the competition was so good. Like everyone was everyone's rivalry. You know what I mean? Like each team every week, got up for each other. I mean, they were like legit. I mean, it was almost like a tournament every time. There was a Big East basketball game.
Well, I mean, if you woke up in the morning and you were in Syracuse and you were a Syracuse fan, you loathed Villanova, St. John's, Pittsburgh, UConn, Georgetown. I mean, like you said, you were everybody's rival. You didn't like anyone.
No.
It's just how it was.
Yeah, it just gave it away.
And now it's but that's the thing, and that's the test I always give people. I go, who's Syracuse's biggest rival in the ACC? Duke. Who's Duke's biggest rival? North Carolina. Who's North Carolina's biggest rival? Duke. Okay, so Duke and North Carolina are having a relationship, and Syracuse is like the lady on the side. Like, that's not...
Yeah, the side chick. Yeah.
Right, yeah, Syracuse is a side chick. That's not good enough.
That's not.
So they need to have a true rival, and that's the thing is, in football, it's like, well, their true rival is Pittsburgh in the ACC, and I'm like, no, that's not good enough. You know what I mean?
Well, kind of.
It is, but it's not. Like, I would say West Virginia.
I mean, it's a stretch, but
yeah,
it's kind of, you kind of got to redo it.
But I would say it would be West Virginia. If they didn't go to the Big 12, it would have been West Virginia. Yeah. So that's the tough part of it, but they are playing tough and they are playing strong, and they're trying to build this rivalry and this competition with Clemson. Clemson's only lost 4 games since 2015. They won 58 of them. One of those 4 games they lost was to Syracuse. So Syracuse has created that, and have tried to, obviously be a thorn in the side of Clemson and their team, so I give them credit for that. The Pittsburgh games are typically close, and the BC games have been good as well. So, I mean, kind of to round everything out.
There's a little rivalry there.
Yeah.
I'll see.
Yeah.
That's supposed to out of the BC, because, Coach Adazio, he actually was not recruiting me to Syracuse. So, those connections. So they're actually being around here too long as he's there. Yeah,
and the thing with Steve Adazio is that he, not only is at BC, but he's also, he also still recruits Central and Upstate New York. He's got a bunch of kids from Central and Upstate New York, whether it's CBA or CNS or whatever it may be, or Beeville. He's gone and gotten players like the Tyler Rouses and the Noah Jordan Williams and the John Phillips and the Tyler Days and whatnot. I mean, he has been very, very connected to Central New York always, and I give him a lot of. And he hired Paul Pasqualoni as his assistant for a couple of years at BC recently here, so he's kept his roots to Syracuse very strong.
Oh yeah, he's strong Connecticut roots as well. That's their original connection down there in Chester. Yeah, he's a good recruiter, man. He's a really good recruiter.
Yeah, absolutely. So that coming once again from Duke Pettijohn here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Duke, as always, I appreciate it, man. I know that this team is fighting. They're looking to obviously find their way from here at 2-2, and I know you're rooting them on from Texas. I know you're cheering for them and hoping for them and wishing them the best. Any final words to kind of close things for today on Syracuse, on the team? Anything you want the guys to know?
You got to compete, man, and hey, you got to embrace the adversity too. it's going to be hard. Things aren't going to go how, you expect or you practice, but, you have to be able to, be agile and, mentally to where, you can make that shift and turn it up and be, be aware for, opportunities. And just keep fighting, man, and have fun at the end of the day. That's the advice I would give them, man. Just get out there and have fun with each other, push each other, hold each other accountable, and, focus on the small things, small victories, small details, and all that adds up.
That coming from Duke Pettijohn. Focus on the little things, small victories, they all add up. Know that there's going to be adversity and stay strong with it. So that coming from Duke Pettijohn this morning, former Syracuse player, defensive end with Dwight Freeney at Syracuse, 96-2000. Duke, as always, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you bring to it. I love that you watch and that you listen, and I just can't thank you enough for the support because for a kid that grew up in Syracuse, it means the world when you see a name pop up that's a former player. I can't tell you what that does. So I just really honestly thank you for that and appreciate that tremendously.
Oh yeah, it's my pleasure, Dan. And anytime you want me on, man, just give me a shout. I don't want to come on, man. I enjoyed this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And are you a Cowboys fan now to being down in Texas, or are you Houston?
Nah, I'm still a Patriots fan.
You're still a Patriot? Oh, so you're with Dana Cottrell. So I got to have all types of problems with that. Okay. All right. All right, yeah, because Dana's always riling me up about that, But so you're a Patriot. So are you happy Antonio Brown's gone?
No.
You're not happy he's gone.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
No, it is what it is. But, some of it is doing, some of it's, being taught a lesson. So,
yeah.
But, that's the business.
Are you guys going back to the Super Bowl this year? Is it going to happen?
That's a silly question. What's the Super Bowl without the Patriots?
Listen, one day. Just give me one day. One day where they don't have to go to the Super Bowl. Bill Belichick made a deal with the devil. That man looks like one. He looks like, he looks like what, Emperor Palpatine? He looks like a Sith Lord. He's always got that hoodie up. He's a scary dude. He's smart as hell, but he made a deal with the devil. He had to. So.
I don't know what he did, but it's working.
Yeah, it is working, and you enjoy it as the rest of the world cries. I hope you enjoy this. But no, with all jokes aside, tremendous team. Obviously, they play very, very well and bring a lot of intensity to it, and for goodness sakes, Bill Belichick used to work with Nick Saban with the Cleveland Browns, so you look at that tree and you see the success of that. So good luck with the angry troll that guards the bridge. But I know you guys are doing well.
Yeah,
All right, man. You be well, okay?
All right, yeah, take it easy, man.